Hello everyone. So welcome back. Meeting you all after a long time. So welcome to the topic that is the most important topic, elasticity of demand. So in this particular session, we are going to see what is elasticity, what are different types of elasticity. Then we have basically the four types: price elasticity, income elasticity, promotional or advertisement elasticity of demand, and cross elasticity of demand. We will be looking into depth about each of these types and the different factors and the importance of these types too. Okay, so let us go in depth. Let us know the introduce the concept elasticity. So it's a concept which was introduced by Alfred Marshall. It is based on the law of demand. It is the rate of change in the quantity demanded due to the changes in price. Then E.K. Estham defines the term elasticity of demand as a measure of the responsiveness of the quantity demanded to the changes in the prices. The degree of elasticity of demand helps in defining the shape and the slope of a demand curve. Therefore, the elasticity of demand can be determined by the slope of the demand curve. Now, flatter, if you find the slope of the demand curve is much flatter, then that shows that it is having the higher elasticity of demand. Now, let us go in depth to the types of elasticity. The first type is price elasticity of demand. It is the most important and most popular elasticity of demand. It measures the responsiveness of the demand to the changes in the price. As we all know, the formula is like this: price elasticity of demand, that is EP, is equal to proportionate changes in the quantity demanded divided by proportion changes in prices, meaning to say delta Q by delta Q by Q into delta P by P, which means it would be like this: delta Q into P by Q into delta P. That is the formula. So, there are some important types of price elasticity of demand. The first is price, that is perfectly elastic demand, which is nothing but infinite elasticity of demand. Why? Because EP is equal to infinity. So, here there would be a greater change in demand in response to the percentage or the smaller change in the price. For example, the demand for a product decreases or completely stops with a little or a small change in the price, and this happens vice versa too. Then next is EP is equal to 0. This is nothing but zero elasticity of demand or perfectly inelastic demand. Consumers, they do not respond to these demand for a product with the increase or decrease in the price. This implies that the demand remains the same with the changes in the prices. Then we have next is EP greater than 1, which is nothing but relatively elastic demand. So here the percentage change in the quantity demanded of a product is greater than the percentage change in the price. In such a case, the consumers generally switch over to the new brands when the price of a particular brand increases. However, some consumers are loyal to the same brand only. Next is EP lesser than 1, which is nothing but relatively inelastic demand. The change in the demand for a product is lesser than the change in its price. EP is equal to 1, unitary elastic demand. The change in the demand and the change in the price of the product are the same. So let us see them in depth with the help of diagrams. The perfectly elastic demand. When a small change in the price of a product causes a major change in its demand, it is said to be perfectly elastic demand. So it can be said this way: a 1% change in the price of the product can lead to 2% change in the, that is a change, you can say that way too. Okay, 2% change or there is major change in the demand. So in a perfectly elastic demand, a small rise in the price results in the fall in demand to 0, while a small fall in the price causes increase in the demand to infinity. So in such a case, we can find the demand is perfectly elastic, or EP is equal to infinity. Hence, we can call this to be again as infinite elasticity of demand. As you see in the diagram, in perfectly elastic demand, the demand curve is represented as a horizontal straight line. So that dP, that would be parallel to the OX, which is measuring the quantity demanded towards x-axis. Examples to state demand for pizza, bread, books, pen, pencils, and so on. Now, perfectly inelastic demand. It is one when there is no change in the demand for the product with the changes in the price. The numerical value for perfectly inelastic demand is 0, EP is equal to 0. So, it is known as zero elasticity of demand 2. In case of perfectly inelastic demand or zero inelasticity of demand, the demand curve is represented as a straight vertical line, which is very much evident in this diagram. From this figure, it is very much evident that the movement in the price from OP to OP1, okay, to OP2, which is coming down, and OP2 to OP3 does not make any change in the demand of the product OQ. So, the price is only moving up and down, but the quantity remains the same. The demand here remains constant for any value of the price. Example, we can see this type of elasticity is very much prominent in case of essential goods like salt. The demand does not change with the change in the price. Therefore, the demand for the essential goods is perfectly inelastic. The third type is relatively inelastic demand. It refers to the demand when the proportionate change produced in the demand is greater than the proportionate change in the price of the product. The numerical value of relatively elastic demand ranges from 1 to infinity. So, here the EP value will be greater than 1, which means 1% change in the price leading to 2% change in the demand. So, if you see as per the formula, 2% change in the quantity demanded divided by 1% change in the price. So, 2 by 1, that is 2, which is greater than 1. So, here this is since EP is greater than 1, we can say this is perfectly nothing but relatively elastic demand. For example, if the price of a product increases by 20% and the demand decreases by 25%, then the demand would be relatively elastic too. Here, from this diagram, we can understand the demand curve of the relatively elastic demand is gradually sloping, which is shown below, that is in the diagram. The proportionate change in demand from OQ1 to OQ2 is relatively larger than the proportionate change in the price from OP1 to OP2. For example, the price of a particular brand of the cold drink increases from Rs 15 to Rs 20. In such a case, the consumers may switch over to another brand of cold drink. However, some of the consumers still consume the same brand. Therefore, a small change in the price produces a larger change in the demand for the product too. The fourth type is relatively inelastic demand, EP lesser than 1. It is 1 when the percentage change produced in demand is lesser than the percentage change in the price of the product. For example, as you see in the formulae, 2% change in the price of the product leading to 1% change in the quantity demanded. So, substitute this in the formulae, 1% change in quantity demanded divided by 2% change in the price, which is 0.5, which is lesser than 1. So, this is an example for relatively inelastic demand. For example, if the price of the product increases by 30% and the demand for the product decreases only by 10%, the demand would be called relatively inelastic. The numerical value of relatively elastic demand ranges from 0 to 1, which means it should be the value lesser than 1. Then here the Marshall also states this, has termed the relatively inelastic demand as elasticity being lesser than unity, which means lesser than 1. Now, this is very much evident from this diagram. That is, the demand curve of the relatively inelastic demand is rapidly sloping downwards. The proportionate change in demand from OQ1 to OQ2 is relatively smaller than the proportionate change in the price from OP1 to OP2. The example we can say here, the demand schedule for milk is given below. That is the price when it is 15 rupees, the quantity demanded would be 100 liters, and when the price increases from 15 to 20, gradually the quantity demanded reduces from 100 to 90. So, that when you just plot it, when you just calculate the price elasticity of demand here, Okay, you as per the question given, P is 15 given, Q is 100 already, and the second price which is given, when it is increases to 20, the quantity falls to 90. So Q is the original quantity, P is the original price, and P1 is a new price, and Q1 is a new price, a new quantity. So as per the formula, if you see, what is the formula? We know delta Q by delta P, okay, into that is into P by Q. That is the formula. So when you apply that, you can find that the delta P is P1 minus P. P1 is the new price. So new price minus the old price. 20 minus 15, 5 rupees. And delta Q is Q1 minus Q. 90 minus 100, that is minus 10. But my dear friends, to be very frank, whatever be the value, negative value, we don't, though it is coming in the value negative, we don't express it as negative, because mathematically, though we write negative, when you write it in the form of conclusion, we just we just try to understand that there is an inverse relationship. Rather, we don't show that negative value in the ultimate answer. So when you get the negative answer, you should assume it is to be positive always. Okay, so the change in the demand shows a negative sign which can be ignored. This is because of the reason that the relationship between the price and the demand is inverse, that can yield a negative value of the price or demand too. So hence, if you apply the formula delta Q by delta P into P by Q, the formula will be, when as per that, you can find that is 10 by 5 into 15 by 100, you get 0.3, which is obviously lesser than 1. So this is an example, perfect example for relatively inelastic demand. So like this, you need to write in the exam too. You need to prove this example. Next, the last but not the least is unitary elasticity of demand. When the proportionate change in demand produces the same changes in the price of the product, the demand is referred as unitary elastic demand. The numerical value for the unitary elastic demand is equal to 1, which means EP is equal to 1. The demand curve for the unitary elastic demand is represented as a rectangular hyperbola. Okay, hyperbola. Here it can be interpreted that the change in price OP1 to OP2, it produces the same change in the demand from OQ1 to OQ. Okay, so that here we can find there is the same, that is 1% change in price leading to 1% change in quantity, so 1 by 1 leading to 1. So we can find here there is the same similar change. So obviously this is actually meant to be unitary elastic. Now, let us go into depth very important questions. Now, we have seen previously the types of price elasticity. Now, let's go into the factors or determinants influencing the price elasticity of demand. Important question. So first is the nature of the commodity. So depending upon the nature of the commodity, be it essential goods or luxury goods, we can find the elasticity of demand also changes accordingly. Next is the extent of use. How far you are using it, the user rate and the user status also matters a lot. Range of substitutes. Sometimes for certain products we can find certain range of the products, substitute products would be there. If you have coffee, then you have substitute as tea. So the demand and supply might, the demand for the product changes according to price for the commodity too. Of one substitute, if it changes, the other substitute might increase, like that. Consumers' level of income, proportion of income spent on the commodity, the personal disposable income we say, then the durability of the commodity, the range of the prices, urgency of demand, time frame, if it is for the long term, medium term or for the short term, depending upon that, then consumers' habits and preferences, then price of the related goods, okay, demand for complementary goods, be it car and petrol or socks and shoes or anything else. Okay, then we have economic and human constraints. All these are the different factors which influences the price elasticity of demand. Next is the importance of this. So first is it's a guide to the price fixation for a new product. It also can decisions can be taken regarding the price changes. Price discrimination can also happen. What is price discrimination? It is a process of practice of charging different prices for the same product in different markets with the different customers. So if it is rich customers or the lower income customers or middle income customers, different customers might be willing to pay at different rates. So depending upon the locality and the standard of living of the customers, the same product would be charged at different rates in different markets. So this process is known as price discrimination. It helps in the monopolists to It helps in fixing of the factor prices, helps in international trade, then through globalization. Then it is also helpful to government by providing subsidies and all, okay, and incentives. Then it helps in the pricing of joint products. Joint products are certain ancillary products which you can use, the seat, the seat belt, the seat cover, the tire, the petrol. All these things can be clubbed together to form one single product, so the joint products. Then the paradox of plenty or paradox of poverty, which means bumper crops. Sometimes we get more crops, we produce more and more crops, which might bring poverty to the farmers, or it can also lead to prosperity, depending upon the seasons at which it's being produced. Next is the measurement of price elasticity of demand. So there are about 4 methods we are going to discuss. The first is the total expenditure method. Dr. Alfred Marshall has evolved this total expenditure method in order to measure the price elasticity of demand. According to this method, elasticity of demand can be measured by considering the changes in the price and the subsequent change in the total quantity of goods purchased and the total amount of money spent on it. So total outlay is equal to price and the quantity, price into quantity demanded. There are 3 major possibilities we can find. If a fall in price, that is demand, increases, then the total expenditure increases, or with a rise in price, that is demand falling, then the total expenditure falls. In that case, the elasticity of demand is greater than 1, that is relatively elastic. If with a rise or fall in the price, the demand falls or rises respectively, then the total expenditure remains the same. Then the demand is said to be unitarily elastic, that is ED is equal to 1. If with a fall in price, it is demand rising, the total expenditure also falls. And with a rise in price, demand falls and the total expenditure rises, then the demand is said to be relatively inelastic, or this is lesser than 1. Now, this can be expressed with the help of a chart. We can find here down, that is ED is equal to 1 minus delta expenses divided by, we have X, that is initial demand, into delta P, that is a change in the price. So we have the list of prices given from 10 to 1. It has been listed in the descending order. Quantity from 1 to 10, it's in the ascending order. Total outlay also 10, 18, 24, it goes up to 10. So the difference of all this will be shown as the elasticity of demand as per the formula. The second one is a proportionate method. This method is also associated with the name of Dr. Marshall. According to this method, price elasticity of the demand is the ratio of the percentage change in the quantity demand and the change in the amount demanded to the percentage change in the price of the commodity. It is also known as the percentage method, or flux method, or ratio method, and arithmetic method too. Its formula is like this: proportionate change in the quantity demanded divided by proportionate change in the price, which means, what is it? That is change in the quantity demanded delta Q by by amount demanded before change, that is P, into, that is a change in the price, that is that would be so the change in the quantity demanded divided by amount demanded before change, the whole divided by change in the price divided by price before the change. Next is implications of this particular method. So what are the implications? This method should be used when there is a very small change in the price and the quantity demanded. The coefficient of the price elasticity of demand is always negative. It is because when the price changes, the demand changes in the opposite direction. But by convention, we can ignore this negative sign, as we have seen in the previous problem. The elasticity of demand is relative. It is not expressed in any unit, rather expressed in percentage or in fractions too. The third method is geometric method or point method. This method was suggested by Alfred Marshall and takes into consideration a straight line demand curve and measures the elasticity at different points on the curve. This method has now become very popular method of measuring elasticity. In this, we can take a straight line demand curve which connects the demand curve with both the axes OX and OY. So it's very much evident in the diagram here. In the diagram, OX axis represents the quantity demanded and OY axis representing the price. For instance, the demand for a commodity was 100 units when the price was 10 rupees. The demand for it increased to 120 units when the price was reduced to 9 rupees. So how would you measure the this one here, price elasticity of demand? So as per the formula, AP is equal to delta Q by delta P into P by Q. So given P is equal to 10 rupees, Q is equal to 100 units. The new change in this one would be delta Q is equal to 120, which is a new unit, minus 100 unit, 20 units it would be. So delta P, that is the new price minus the old price, 9 minus 10, that is minus 1. But price is never a negative, so it is assumed to be positive always. So delta P, so we can say delta P is equal to 1 only. Okay, Indian National Rupee, that is 1 rupee. Then EP is equal to, substitute the values, EP is equal to 20 by 1 into 10 by 100, you get 2, which is obviously less greater than 1. So here we can say it is relatively elastic demand. So next is the fourth one is arc elasticity. It is a measure of the average responsiveness to the price changes exhibited by a demand curve over some finite stretch of the curve, which is defined by Professor Baumol. Arc elasticity is the elasticity at the midpoint of an arc of the demanded curve too. This has been defined by Watson. So, for instance, the price of the commodity is 15 rupees and the quantity demanded at that price is 500 units. Okay. So, when the price falls to 10 rupees, we can find it the demand increases to 800 units. So, calculate the EP. So, if you find that we have to use one formula here. So, that is we can file this in the diagram too here. Okay. That is Q minus Q1 divided by Q plus Q1 into that is P plus P1 divided by P minus P1. That is the formula. So when you apply that formula, Q minus Q1, that is 500 minus 800, divided by P minus P1, that is 15 minus 10, into P plus P1, that is 15 plus 10, divided by Q plus Q1, that is 500 plus 800, you get 1.15, which is obviously greater than 1, so which means here it is relatively elastic again. So these are the different 4 methods we have been analyzing, measuring the price elasticity of demand. So it's an important question. Next is we are going to see the next type, that is after price elasticity we are going to see income elasticity. So income elasticity of demand denotes the responsiveness to the changes in consumers' income with the changes in the demand for a certain good. For a certain product, the income elasticity of demand can be positive or negative or can be non-responsive too. The larger the income elasticity of demand for a certain product, the greater will be the shift in the demand that we can see in the consumer income. So income, the measurement formula is income elasticity of demand, EI, is equal to percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by percentage change in the income of the consumer, where the percentage change in the quantity demanded is equal to change in the quantity demanded divided by original quantity demanded, then for percentage change in income of the consumer is equal to change in the income of the consumer divided by original income of the consumer. So now there are different types of it. Based on numerical value, the income elasticity can be classified into 3 types: positive income elasticity, okay, negative income elasticity, and zero income elasticity. So here if you find the first one, positive income elasticity, it refers to a condition in which the demand for the commodity rises with a rise in the consumer's income and declines with the decline in the consumer's income. Okay, so when you find the income increases, the demand increases, income reduces, then demand reduces. That's all. Vice versa. So the commodities with positive income elasticity of demand would be normal goods which you are normally buying at a home. This is what the upward slope. So this upward slope implies that there is that the rise in the income contributes to the rise in the demand and vice versa. There are 3 forms of positive income elasticity of demand. First is a unitary elastic. So that is positive income elasticity would be unitary if the proportionate change in the amount of product demanded equals the change in the consumer's income in due proportion. More than unitary, that is greater than 1, then the positive income elasticity of demand will be greater than 1 or more than unitary if the proportionate change in the amount of product demanded is higher than the there is a change in the consumer's income in the due proportion. And if you find that the proportionate change in the amount of the product demanded is lesser than the change in the consumer's income in due proportion, then in that case it would be lesser than unity. The second type of income elasticity is negative income elasticity. That is, it refers to a condition where the demand for the commodity decreases with the rise in the consumer's income and increases with the fall in the consumer's income. Example is inferior goods. Okay, for example, if you find the demand for millet would decrease if the income of the consumers increase, and we can hear because this happens because they prefer to purchase wheat instead of millet and all. Okay, thus millet is considered here in this case as an inferior product compared to wheat for the customers. So this would be a diagram which is for gradually falling. This downward slope implies that the increase in the consumer's income contributes to the fall in demand and decreases in consumers and decreases in income, causing a rise in demand too. The third type is zero income elasticity of demand. It corresponds to the situation when there is no impact of rising household income on the commodity production. Such goods are called essential goods. Okay, for example, high income consumers and low income consumers will need salt in the same quantity. So here the demand remains the same with the changes in the prices, or not in the change in the prices, with the changes in the income. So now let us see the importance of income elasticity. One is demand forecasting, then investment decisions. Depending upon the income, you can find whether you want to keep more savings, more invest, more or less investment, like that. Tax can be hedged too, like that. Then product line planning, then advertisement planning, then production planning according to business cycle, all these things. What are the factors influencing income elasticity? One is the nature of the products, then the level of income of the consumers in the country, and finally the time period, whether it's for the short term, long term, or for the medium term. Next is advertisement or the promotional elasticity of demand. Advertising comprises of oral and visual images and all, which is mainly done for the to inform the customers or the consumers about the availability of the product and influence them to purchase them at the same time. The main objective of advertising is to promote the sales of the organization by increasing demand for the products. Okay, and this is very much evident we can find in the advertisement elasticity of sales or demand. It refers to the responsiveness of the change of the sales of the demand with the proportionate or the percentage change in the advertisement expenditure. So the responsiveness sales is increasing with the changes in the there is advertisement expenditure. So here we can find the advertisement elasticity EA can be calculated by the formula change in the sales divided by change in the advertisement cost. Change in sales, which further it can be classified as increase in sales, that is delta S divided by initial sales S. So delta S by S, then change in the advertisement expenditure cost is equal to delta A, that is increase in advertisement cost divided by initial advertisement, that is A. Okay, so apply the formula. So EA is equal to delta S by S into A by delta A, that is the formula. So when you apply this example, suppose the sales promotion expenditure would be 20,000, it is increased from 20 to 60,000. Consequently, the sales would increase from 40,000 units to 60,000 units. So applied in the formula, delta S is equal to, that is 60,000 minus 40,000, 20,000 units. Delta A is equal to 60 minus 20, 40,000 rupees again. So when you apply that, 20,000 divided by 40,000 into 20,000 by 40,000, you get 0.25, which is lesser than 1. So obviously we can say this is actually since it's lesser than 1, it is relatively inelastic demand. Okay, right. What are different types of promotional elasticity or advertisement elasticity of demand? That is, EA is equal to 0 when there is no proportionate change in the sales okay, of the organization with the proportionate change in the advertising expenditure. EA is greater than 0 or it is lesser than 1. Then that means when the proportionate change in the total sales of the organization is lesser than the proportionate change in the advertisement expenditure. EA is equal to 1 when the proportionate change in the sales of the organization is same as the proportionate change in the advertisement expenditure, and EA greater than 1, which means the proportionate change in the sales of the organization is more than the proportionate change in the advertisement expenditure. So in the previous one we found that is the proportionate change in the advertisement expenditure, which is 0.25, right? So it was lesser than 1. So the proportionate change in the advertisement sales of the organization, it was lesser than the proportionate change in the advertisement expenditure, right? That's what we found. So what are the factors influencing that? One is product life cycle, be it in the introduction stage or the growth stage or maturity stage or decline stage or saturation stage, whatever it is. Then the quality of the advertisement, the quantity of the advertisement, how much time you're taking, how much effort you are taking, what amount you are investing for, since it is deferred revenue expenditure, you invested now, the effect comes in future. It's like that. The selection of the media, be it the print media, electronic media, or the radio, whatever it is. Then time effect, cumulative effect of the past advertising. What are the past advertisement you have shown? Have you made an improvement over that? Have you made some innovation over that? Some creativity? Okay, have you how far have you been able to reach the customer's mind in a short span of time, like that? effectiveness of competing firms' advertisements, various other factors like changes in the prices, quality, nature of the commodity, income, taste and preferences of the consumers, availability of substitutes, etc. Then what are the uses of this? So advertisement budget preparation, determining the optimum level of the advertisement cost, like that. Okay, then next is the cross elasticity of demand. The last one, it is the ratio of proportionate change in the quantity demanded of Y commodity to the given change in the price of the related commodity X. So it can be for in case of the substitute goods we can find. It's a measure of a relative change in the quantity demanded of a commodity due to the changes in its substitutes of the complementary goods. So mainly example we can find the complementary goods, car and petrol example, or shoe and socks we can say, or substitute goods like tea and coffee, all these things. Okay. Example would be price elasticity of demand is equal to delta, that is percentage change in the quantity demanded for the good X divided by percentage change in the price of the good Y. The different types of it, the first one is a positive. When goods are substitute of each other, then the cross elasticity of demand is positive. For instance, with the increase in the price of tea, the demand for coffee will increase. Okay, so we can find this. So this is what showing in the upward sloping curve from left to right in this particular diagram. The second is negative cross elasticity. In case of complementary goods, the cross elasticity of demand is negative. So remember always, in case of complementary, the cross elasticity would be negative. In case of substitute goods, the cross elasticity would be positive. Now, why we can find the cross in case of in case of complementary goods, cross elasticity is negative? Because the proportionate increase in the price of one commodity leads to the proportionate fall in the demand of the another commodity, and because all these are jointly used together, isn't it? They are joint products. So when the price of the commodity increases from OP to OP1 as per the diagram, similarly we can find the quantity falls from OM to OM1. So here obviously we can find from this diagram that it is negatively sloping. Okay, so the cross elasticity of demand for complementary goods are negative. Now, next, last but not the least, the third type of cross elasticity is zero cross elasticity of demand. So the cross elasticity of demand is zero whenever you find that two products are not related to each other. For instance, an increase in the price of the car does not affect the demand of cloth, isn't it? So the cloth has no relation with, has no connection with the price of the car. So in this case, obviously we can find the cross elasticity of demand is zero. So these are the important. So in today's session, we have discussed what is elasticity, what are different types of it, what are the factors influencing that, what are the importance of that, the different types you've seen, the different methods of measurement of that. Okay. So thank you. Have a nice day.